All right, the 2023 NBA draft goes down on Thursday night, and as of right now, the Knicks do not have a first or second round pick, but that could change. There's plenty of offseason news surrounding the Knickerbockers right now, so let's take a time out for some Knicks talk. We're going to do it with my guy, Jonathan Macri, aka the Dean of Knicks Film School. Jonathan, how are you doing? Are you enjoying this Knicks offseason?
So far, I mean, it's been quiet, but quiet is not necessarily a bad thing. And yeah, it's given me a chance to kind of rest up before the madness starts. And here we are on draft day when we know it will not be a quiet day for sure.
We know it will not be a quiet day, and whenever it's quiet, noise is coming soon. That will happen at some point. All right, J Mac. So, as of this recording, Knicks do not have a draft pick for 2023. Do you think that the team should try to acquire either a first or second round pick in this year's draft?
I do. And I think it's important, not for the same reasons that I think it might be important for some other teams. You see the Nuggets maneuvering to try to just get some cheap talent in the pipeline because they just don't have a choice with their finances. But I think for the Knicks, last year they just took Trevor Keels, who, we'll see what he is, didn't appear to be much in his rookie season. If you go too many years in a row without kind of restocking the coffers, it leaves you in a situation where your entire roster is just going to be very expensive, or on the flip side, very old if you're just trying to get like veterans on the minimum. So I think, it's not probably going to be a player who would enter the rotation next year. There's no room for that right now. But to get someone in there who the organization likes and feel that they could develop over the course of a few years, yeah, I think that would be pretty good.
All right, we'll see if the Knicks can do that on draft night. And we got to talk about some news around the Knicks because news came out on Wednesday about forward Obi Toppin getting into an argument with head coach Tom Thibodeau following the team's Game 4 loss in the series against the Heat. Toppin was reportedly upset about lack of playing time. Now, you know this, Toppin is extension eligible before next season. What do you think his future is here in New York?
About the same as my future as a fan of the Brooklyn Nets, which is to say,
Wow.
not very good odds. I mean, look, it's an unfortunate situation. It's been an unfortunate situation, really, from the beginning of Toppin's rookie season when they drafted him to be, Julius Randle's replacement, and then Randle came out and had himself an All-Star and ultimately an All-NBA season. I think Toppin has value around the league. I think there are teams who would be willing to take a chance on him, maybe not as a starter, but as a guy who can contribute more meaningfully to a rotation than he has here thus far. As our mutual friend Ian Begley reported earlier this year, I mean, it sounds like these two sides are going to work together. The writing seems to be on the wall to find Obi Toppin a new home. I think it's just now a matter of where and when and what they could get back.
All right, something else for the fans to keep their eye on draft night. Where will Obi Toppin go if he is indeed moved? Now, you talked about our mutual friend SNY's Ian Begley on Thursday. He reported that the Knicks and Clippers have had contact about a potential Paul George trade. So I got to ask you this, J-Mac, would be bringing PG-13 to MSG, would that be a good move for the Knicks?
It's complicated. I think from a basketball fit perspective, I don't know, in terms of guys who are realistically attainable, putting aside your Giannis's and your Jokic's of the world. I don't know that there's a guy out there who would be a better fit on a roster headlined by Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle than Paul George. From that perspective, I think he'd be, like a hand in glove, kind of like Josh Hart felt last year, except to a much greater degree. But obviously there are issues. He's 33. He's played, under 50 games a year now on average for the last 4 years. And he's got a year left before he could opt out of the final year of his contract, and he could get even more expensive. It would maybe reset the timeline a little bit for a team that right now is pretty young. So it depends on, I guess, what the Knicks' goals are. If they're trying to win, though, next year and win more than they did this previous year, it's hard to argue against Paul George.
All right, something to keep an eye on. Interesting what the fan base will want and what they will think about the Knicks acquiring Paul George, but we shall see. Now, Ian Begley also reported that several members of the Knicks organization are, quote, fans of the idea of adding Dante DiVincenzo. So I got to ask this, is DiVincenzo the kind of shooter that New York needs to add to its roster this offseason?
This is an easy one. If you look at Dante DiVincenzo, his career, for the most part, has had a steady progression as a shooter, as a passer, all the way from when he first entered the league out of Villanova, which obviously we know Villanova very well with this roster. The one blip on the radar was when he got injured and he missed the entire first half of the year after the Bucks won the championship, came back, wasn't really quite himself. If you take that year out of the equation, though, it really has been a steady upward climb. He is not only a great shooter, he is a guy that could put the ball on the floor. I mean, he served as kind of like the backup point guard on a few occasions when he was in Milwaukee. He's exactly where the league is going today. And I feel like if he's available for the mid-level exception, which the Knicks, have all of if they want, I think he's a guy you go out and get. And he's going to retain his value on that contract.
All right, we'll see if he is somebody the Knicks try to sign this offseason. Could be a good fit off the Knicks bench. And last thing here for me, we're going to go back to the draft. And we were talking about this a little bit before, J-Mac. What are your expectations here for the draft? Do you expect the Knickerbockers to be active when it comes to improving their roster on draft night, or will things be quiet?
There's a lot of teams with a lot of picks. Now, the Pacers have already offloaded some of their selections yesterday in the trade I mentioned with the Nuggets. They made a trade, I believe, with the Lakers earlier today to slide down. But there's a lot of teams. I mean, the Charlotte Hornets, for instance, who the Knicks have done a draft night deal with, they have 5 picks, including, 4 right in that middle section of the draft. I'm sure they'd be open to a trade. There are a couple other teams that have at least 3 selections. So I would think that the Knicks figure out a way to get into this draft somehow, some way. As far as who goes out, who they end up picking, that remains to be seen.
It all remains to be seen. Should be an interesting draft night. As we said, right now the Knicks do not have a first or second round pick, but that all could change, or there could be some more deals made on draft night. We'll see. Either way, the offseason has begun. Things were quiet. It's not going to be that quiet anything more. Jonathan Macri, please check out his work with Knicks Film School. J-Mac, as always, thank you for the time. It's going to get busy. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more soon.
Pleasure's all mine. And buckle up, everybody.
Buckle up. Thank you, man.